Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarini Namo Vanchakalpataruvescha Kripa Sindhuvevacham Patitanam Bhavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. So today we are reading from the chapter 70 of Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada, entitled The Daily Activities of Krishna. So, starting from paragraph, Krishna's existence is not relative existence. Everything else but Krishna is a relative truth. But Krishna is a supreme absolute truth. Krishna does not depend upon anything but himself for his existence. For our existence, however, is relative. For example, only when there is the light of the sun, the moon, or electricity are we able to see. Our seeing, therefore, is relative, and the light of the sun and moon and electricity is also relative. They are called illuminating only because we see them as such. But dependence on the relativity does not exist in Krishna. His activities are not dependent on anyone else's appreciation, nor does he depend on anyone else's help. He is beyond the existence of limited time and space, and because he is transcendental to time and space, he cannot be covered by the illusion of Maya, whose activities are limited. In the Vedic literature, we find that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has multipotencies. Since all such potencies are emanations from him, there is no difference between him and his potencies. Certain philosophers say, however, that when Krishna comes, he accepts a material body. But even if it's accepted without when he comes to the material world, he accepts a material body, it should be concluded also that because the material energy is not different from him, this body does not act materially. In the Bhagavad-Gita it is said, therefore, that he appears by his own internal potency, Atma Maya.
Krishna is called the Supreme Brahman because he is the cause of creation, the cause of maintenance, and the cause of dissolution. Lord Brahma, Lord Vishnu, and Lord Shiva are different expansions of these material qualities. All these material qualities can act upon the conditioned souls, but there is no such action and reaction upon Krishna because these qualities are all simultaneously one and with and different from him. Krishna himself is simply Sak-Ed Ananda Vigra, the external form of bliss and knowledge, and because of his inconceivable greatness, he is called the Supreme Brahman. His meditation on Brahman or Paramatma or Bhagavan is on himself only, and not on anything else beyond himself. This meditation cannot be imitated by the ordinary living entity.
Let the ladies come through. We need to have an aisle here. Huh? Wherever you like.
Thank you.
Please be comfortable. Where to begin?
After this one.
Hare Krishna. After his meditation, the Lord would regularly bathe early in the morning with clear, sanctified water. Then he would change into fresh clothing, cover himself with a wrapper, and engage in his daily religious functions. Out of his many religious duties, the first was to offer oblations into the sacrificial fire and silently chant the Gayatri mantra. Lord Krishna, as the ideal householder, executed all the religious functions of a householder without deviation. When the sunrise became visible, the Lord would offer specific prayers to the sun god. The sun god and other demigods mentioned in the Vedic scriptures are described as different limbs of the body of Lord Krishna. And it is the duty of the householder to offer respects to the demigods and great sages, as well as to the forefathers. Should I keep reading? As it is said in the Bhagavad-Gita, the Lord has no specific duty to perform in this world, and yet he acts just like an ordinary man living an ideal life within this material world. In accordance with Vedic ritualistic principles, the Lord would offer respects to the demigods. The regulative principle by which the demigods and forefathers are worshipped is called tarpana, which means pleasing. One's forefathers may have to take a body on another planet, but by performance of this tarpana system, they became very happy wherever they may be. It is the duty of the householder to make his family members happy, and by following this tarpana system, he can make his forefathers happy also. As the perfect exemplary householder, Lord Sri Krishna followed this tarpana system and offered respectful obeisances to the elderly superior members of his family.
His next duty was to give cows in charity to the Brahmanas. Every day Lord Krishna used to give many groups of 13,084 cows. Each of the cows was decorated with a silken cover and pearl necklace. Their horns were covered with gold plating, and their hoofs were silver plated. All of them were full of milk due to having their firstborn calves with them, and they were very tame and peaceful. When the cows were given in charity to the Brahmanas also were given nice silken garments, and each was given a deer skin and sufficient quantity of sesame seeds. The Lord is generally known as Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, which means that his first duty is to see to the welfare of the cows and the Brahmanas. Thus he is to give cows in charity to the Brahmanas with opulent decoration and paraphernalia. Then wishing for the welfare of all living entities, he would touch auspicious articles such as milk, honey, ghee, clarified butter, gold, jewels, and fire. Although Lord is by nature very beautiful due to the perfect figure of his transcendental body, he would dress himself in a yellow garment and put on his necklace and Kaustubha jewels. He would wear flower garlands, smear his body with the pop of sandalwood, and decorate himself with similar cosmetics and ornaments. It is said that the ornaments themselves became beautiful upon being placed on the transcendental body of the Lord. After decorating himself in this way, the Lord would then look at marble statues and the cow and calf and visit temples of God or demigods like Lord Shiva. There were many Brahmanas who would come taking their breakfast. They were anxious to see him, and he welcomed them.
His next duty was to please all kinds of men belonging to the different castes, both in the city and within the palace compound. He made them happy by fulfilling their different desires, and when the Lord saw them happy, he also became very much pleased. The flower garlands, betel nuts, sandalwood pulp, and other fragrant cosmetic articles offered to the Lord would be distributed by him. first to the brahmanas and the elderly members of the family, then to the queens, and then to the ministers. And if there was still some balance, he would engage it for his own personal use. By the time the Lord finished all these daily duties and activities, his charioteer, Daruka, would come with his wonderful chariot to stand before the Lord with folded hands, intimating that the chariot was ready and the Lord would come out of the palace to travel. Then the Lord, accompanied by Uddhava and Satyaki, would ride on the chariot just as the sun god rides on his chariot in the morning, appearing with his blazing rays on the surface of the world. When the Lord was about to leave his palaces, all the queens would look at him with feminine gestures. The Lord would respond to their greetings with smiles, attracting their hearts so much that they would feel intense separation from him.
Then the Lord would go to this assembly house known as Sudharma. It may be remembered that the Sudharma assembly house was taken away from the heavenly planets and established in the city of Dwarka. The specific significance of the assembly house was that anyone who entered it would be freed from the 6 kinds of material pangs, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. These are the whips of the material existence, and as long as one remained in that Sudharma assembly house, he would not be affected by these 6 material whips. The Lord would say goodbye in all the 16,000 palaces, and again he would become one and enter the Sudharma assembly house in procession with the other members of Yadu dynasty. Upon entering the assembly house, he used to sit on the exalted royal throne and would be seen to emanate glaring rays of transcendental effulgence. In the midst of all the great heroes of Yadu dynasty, Krishna resembled the full moon in the sky, surrounded by multi-luminaries. In the assembly house, there were professional jokers, dancers, musicians, and ballet girls. And as soon as the Lord sat on the throne, he would begin their respective functions to please the Lord and put him in a happy mood. First of all, the jokers would talk in such a way that the Lord and his associates would enjoy their humor, which would refresh the morning mood. The dramatic actors would then play their parts, and the dancing ballet girls would separately display their artistic movements. All these functions would be accompanied by the beating of mridanga drums and the sounds of the veena, flutes, and the bells, followed by the sounds of muraja, another type of drum. To these musical vibrations, the auspicious sound of conch shell would be added. The professional singers, called Sutas and Magadas, would sing, and others would perform their dancing art. In this way, as devotees, they would offer respectful prayers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sometimes the learned brahmanas present in that assembly would chant Vedic hymns and explain them to the audience to the best of their knowledge. And sometimes some of them would recite old historical accounts of activities of the prominent kings. The Lord, accompanied by his associates, would be very pleased to hear them.
Once upon a time, a person arrived at the gateway of the assembly house who was unknown to all the members of the assembly. And with the permission of Lord Krishna, he was admitted into the assembly by the doorkeeper. The doorkeeper was ordered to present him before the Lord, and the man appeared and offered his respectful obeisances unto the Lord with folded hands. It had happened that when King Jarasandha conquered all other kingdoms, many kings did not bow their heads before Jarasandha, and consequently all of them, numbering 20,000, were arrested and made his prisoners. The man brought before Lord Krishna by the doorkeeper was a messenger from all these imprisoned kings. Being duly presented before the Lord, the man began to relay a message from the kings as follows.
Dear Lord, you are the eternal form of transcendental bliss and knowledge. As such, you are beyond the reach of the mental speculation or vocal description of any materialistic man within this world. A slight portion of your glories can be known by persons fully surrendered unto your lotus feet, and, by your grace only, such persons become freed from all material anxieties. Dear Lord, we are not among these surrendered souls. We are still within the duality and illusion of this material existence. We therefore take shelter of your lotus feet, for we are afraid of the cycle of birth and death. Dear Lord, we think that there are many living entities like us who are eternally entangled in fruitive activities and their reactions. They are never inclined to follow your instructions by performing devotional service, although it is pleasing to the heart and most auspicious for one's existence. On the contrary, they are against the path of Krishna conscious life, and they are wandering within the three worlds, impelled by the illusory energy of material existence.
My dear Lord, who can estimate your mercy and your powerful activities? You are present always as the insurmountable force of eternal time, engaged in baffling the indefatigable desires of the materialists, who are thus repeatedly becoming confused and frustrated. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you in your form of eternal time. My dear Lord, you are the proprietor of all the worlds, and you have incarnated yourself along with your plenary expansion Lord Balarama. It is said that your appearance in this incarnation is for the purpose of protecting the faithful and destroying the miscreants. Under the circumstances, how is it possible that miscreants like Jarasandha can put us into such deplorable conditions of life against your authority? We are puzzled at the situation and cannot understand how it is possible. It may be that Jarasandha has been deputed to give us such trouble because of our past misdeeds. But we have heard from revealed scriptures that anyone who surrenders unto your lotus feet immediately becomes immune to the reactions of sinful life. I have therefore been deputed by all the imprisoned kings to wholeheartedly offer ourselves unto your shelter, and we hope that your Lordship will now give us full protection. We have now come to the real conclusion of our lives. Our kingly positions are nothing but the reward of our past pious activities, just as our suffering imprisonment by Jarasandha is a result of our past impious activities. We realize now that the resultant reactions of both pious and impious activities are temporary, and that we can never be happy in this conditioned life. This material body is awarded to us by the modes of material nature, and on account of this we are full of anxieties. The material condition of life simply involves bearing the burden of this dead body. As a result of fruitive activities, we have thus been subjected to being beasts of burden for these bodies, and are being forced by conditional life. We have given up the pleasing life of Krishna consciousness. Now, we realize that we are the most foolish persons. We have been entangled in the network of material reaction due to our ignorance. We have therefore come to the shelter of your lotus feet, which can immediately eradicate all the results of fruitive action and thus free us from the contamination of material pains and pleasures.
Dear Lord, because we are now surrendered souls at your lotus feet, you can give us relief from the entrapment of fruitive action made possible by Jarasandha. Dear Lord, it is known to you that Jarasandha possesses the power of 10,000 elephants, and with this power he has imprisoned us, just as a lion hypnotizes a flock of sheep. Dear Lord, you have already fought with Jarasandha 18 times consecutively, out of which you have defeated him 17 times by surpassing his extraordinarily powerful position. But in your 18th fight, you exhibited your human behavior, and thus it appeared that you were defeated. Dear Lord, we know very well that Jarasanga cannot defeat you at any time, for your power, strength, resources, and authority are all unlimited. No one can equal you or surpass you. Your apparent defeat by Jarasanga in the 18th engagement was nothing but an exhibition of a human behavior. Unfortunately, foolish Jarasanga could not understand your tricks, and he has since then become puffed up over his material power and prestige. Specifically, he has arrested and imprisoned us, knowing fully that as your devotees we are subordinate to your sovereignty.
The messenger concluded, "Now I have explained the awful position of the kings, and your lordship can consider and do whatever you like. As the messenger and representative of all those imprisoned kings, I have submitted my words before your lordship and presented their prayers to you. All the kings are very anxious to see you, so that they can all personally surrender at your lotus feet. My dear Lord, be merciful upon them and act for their good fortune." At the very moment, the messenger of the imprisoned kings was presenting their appeal before the Lord. The great sage Narada arrived. Because he was a great saint, his hair was dazzling like gold, and when he entered the assembly house, it appeared that the sun god was personally present in the midst of the assembly. Lord Krishna is the worshipable master of even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Yet, as soon as he saw the sage Narada had arrived, he immediately stood up with his ministers and secretaries to receive the great sage and offer his respectful obeisances by bowing his head. The great sage Narada took a comfortable seat, and Lord Krishna worshipped him with all paraphernalia as required for the regular reception of a saintly person. While trying to satisfy Naradji, Lord Krishna spoke the following words in his sweet and natural voice.
Hare Krishna. My dear great sage, among the demigods, I think that now everything is well within the three words. You are perfectly eligible to travel everywhere in space, in the upper, middle, and lower planetary system of the universe. Fortunately, when we meet, you can very easily take information from your holiness of all the news of the three worlds. For within this cosmic manifestation of the Supreme Lord, there is nothing concealed from your knowledge. You know everything, and so I wish to question you. Are the Pandavas doing well? And what is the present plan of King Yudhishthira? Will you kindly let me know what they want to do at present?
The great sage Narad spoke as follows. My dear Lord, you have spoken about the cosmic manifestation created by the Supreme Lord. But I know that you are the all-pervading creator. Your energies are so extensive and inconceivable that even powerful personalities like Brahma, the Lord of this particular universe, cannot measure your inconceivable power. My dear Lord, you are present as the super soul in everyone's heart by your inconceivable potency. exactly like the fire which is present in everyone but which no one can see directly. In a conditioned life, all living entities are within the jurisdiction of the three modes of material nature. As such, they are unable to see your presence everywhere with their material eyes. By your grace, however, I have seen many times the action of your inconceivable potency. And when you ask me for the news of the Pandavas, which is not at all unknown to you, I am not surprised at your inquiry.
Hare Krishna. My dear Lord, by your inconceivable potencies, you create this cosmic manifestation, maintain it, and again dissolve it. Only by dint of your inconceivable potency does this material world, although a shadow representation of the spiritual world, appear to be factual. No one can understand what you plan to do in the future. Your transcendental position is always inconceivable to everyone. As far as I am concerned, I can simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you again and again. In the bodily concept of existence, everyone is driven by material desires, and thus everyone develops new material bodies one after another in the cycle of birth and death. Being absorbed in such a concept of existence, one does not know how to get out of this engagement out of the material body. By your causeless mercy, my Lord, you descend to exhibit your various transcendental pastimes, which are illuminating and full of glory. Therefore, I have no alternative but to offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
My dear Lord, you are the supreme Parabrahman, and your pastimes as an ordinary human are another tactical resource, exactly like a play on the stage in which the actor plays parts different from his own identity. Because the Pandavas are your cousins, you have inquired about them in the role of their well-wisher, and therefore I shall let you know about their intentions. Now please hear me.
First, I may inform you that King Yudhishthira has all material opulences which are possible to achieve in the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka. He has no material opulence for which to aspire. Yet, he wants to perform the Rajasuya sacrifice only to get your association and please you. King Yudhishthira is so opulent that he has attained all the opulence of Brahmaloka, even on this earthly planet. He is fully satisfied and he does not need anything more. He is full in everything, but now he wants to worship you to achieve your causeless mercy, and I beg to request you to fulfill his desires. My dear Lord, in these great sacrificial performances by King Yudhishthira, there will be an assembly of all the demigods and all the famous kings of the world.
My dear Lord, you are the Supreme Brahman, the personality of Godhead. One who engages himself in your devotional service by the prescribed methods of hearing, chanting, and remembering certainly becomes purified from the contamination of the modes of material nature. And what to speak of those who have the opportunity to see you and touch you directly? My dear Lord, you are the symbol of everything auspicious. Your transcendental name and fame have spread all over the universe, including the higher, middle, and lower planetary systems. The transcendental water which washes your lotus feet is known in the higher planetary system as Mandakini, in the lower planetary system as Bhogavati, and in this earthly planetary system as the Ganges. This sacred transcendental water flows throughout the entire universe, purifying wherever it flows.
Just before the great sage Narada arrived in the Sudharma assembly house of Dwarka, Lord Krishna and his ministers and secretaries had been considering how to attack the kingdom of Jarasandha. Because they were seriously considering this subject, Narada's proposal that Lord Krishna go to Hastinapur for Maharaj Yudhishthira's great Rajasuya sacrifice did not much appeal to them. Lord Krishna could understand the intentions of his associates, because he is the ruler of even Lord Brahma. Therefore, in order to pacify them, he smilingly said to Uddhava, "My dear Uddhava, you are always my well-wishing confidential friend. I therefore wish to see everything through you because I believe that your counsel is always right. I believe that you understand the whole situation perfectly. Therefore, I am asking your opinion. What should I do? I have faith in you, and therefore I shall do whatever you advise." It was known to Uddhava that although Lord Krishna was acting like an ordinary man, he knew everything, past, present, and future. However, because the Lord wanted to consult with him, Uddhava, in order to render service to the Lord, began to speak. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 70th chapter of Krishna, Lord Krishna's daily activities.
Okay, next chapter. Lord Krishna in Indraprastha city. In the presence of the great sage Narada and all the other associates of Lord Krishna, Uddhava considered the situation and thus spoke as follows. My dear Lord, first of all let me say that the great sage Narada Muni, has requested you to go to Hastinapura to satisfy King Yudhishthira, your cousin, who is making arrangements to perform the great sacrifice known as Rajasuya. I think, therefore, that your lordship should immediately go there to help the king in this great adventure. However, although to accept the invitation offered by the great sage Narada Muni as primary is quite appropriate, at the same time, my lord, it is your duty to give protection to the surrendered souls. Both purposes can be served if we understand the whole situation. Unless we are victorious over all the kings, no one can perform this Rajasuya sacrifice. In other words, it is to be understood that King Yudhishthira cannot perform this great sacrifice without gaining victory over the belligerent King Jarasandha. The Rajasuya sacrifice can only be performed by one who has gained victory over all directions. Therefore, to execute both purposes, we first of all have to kill Jarasandha. I think that if we can somehow or other gain victory over Jarasandha, then automatically all our purposes will be served. The imprisoned kings will be released, and with great pleasure we shall enjoy the spread of your transcendental fame at having saved the innocent kings whom Jarasandha has imprisoned.
But King Jarasandha is not an ordinary man. He has proved a stumbling block even to great warriors, because his bodily strength is equal to strength of 10,000 elephants. If there is anyone who can conquer this king, he is none other than the Bhimsena, because he also possesses the strength of 10,000 elephants. The best thing would be for the Bhimsena to fight alone with him. Then there would be no unnecessary killing of many soldiers. In fact, it will be very difficult to conquer Jarasandha when he stands with his Akshoni division of soldiers. We may therefore adopt a policy more favorable to the situation. We know that the king Jarasandha is very much devoted to the Brahmins. He is very charitably disposed towards them. He never refuses any request from a Brahman. I think, therefore, that Bhimsena should approach Jarasandha in the dress of Brahman, beg charity from him, and then personally engage in fighting him. And in order to assure Bhimsena's victory, I think that your lordship should also accompany him. If the fighting takes place in your presence, I am sure Bhimsena will emerge victorious because simply by your presence everything impossible is made possible. Just as Lord Brahman creates this universe and Lord Shiva destroys it simply through your influence.
Actually, you are creating and destroying the entire cosmic manifestation. Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are only the superficially visible causes. Creation and destruction are actually being performed by the invisible time factor, which is your impersonal representation. Everything is under the control of this time factor. If your invisible time factor can perform such wonderful acts through Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, will not your personal presence help Bhimasena to conquer Jarasandha? My dear Lord, when Jarasandha is killed, then the queens of all the imprisoned kings will be so joyful at their husbands being released by your mercy that they will begin to sing your glories. They will be as pleased as the gopis were when they were released from the hands of Shankashura. All the great sages, the kings of the elephants, Gajendra, the goddess of fortune, Sita, and even your father and mother were all delivered by your causeless mercy. We also have been thus delivered, and we are always singing the transcendental glories of your activities. Therefore, I think that if the killing of Jarasandha is undertaken first, that will automatically solve many other problems. As for the Rajasuya sacrifice arranged in Hastinapur, it will be held either because of the pious activities of the imprisoned kings or the impious activities of Jarasandha. My lord, it appears that you are also personally to go to Hastinapur to perform this great sacrifice so that demoniac kings like Jarasandha and Shishupala may be conquered, the pious imprisoned kings released, and at the same time the great Rajasuya sacrifice performed. Considering all these points, I think that your lordship should immediately proceed to Hastinapur. Would you like to read?
This advice of Uddhav's was appreciated by all who were present in the assembly. Everyone considered that Lord Krishna's going to Hastinapur would be beneficial from all points of view. The great sage Narad, the elder personalities of the Yadu dynasty, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself, all supported the statement of Uddhav. Lord Krishna then took permission from his father Vasudeva and grandfather Ugrasen, and he immediately ordered his servants Daruka and Jaitra to arrange for travel to Hastinapur. When everything was prepared, Lord Krishna especially bid farewell to Lord Balram and the king of the Yadus, Ugrasen, and after dispatching his queens along with their children and sending their necessary luggage ahead, he mounted his chariot, which bore the flag marked with the symbol of Garud.
Speak loud and take your time.
Hare Krishna. Before starting, 1 minute. Before starting the procession, Lord Krishna satisfied the great sage Narada by offering him different kinds of articles of worship. Naradaji wanted to fall at the lotus feet of Krishna, but because the Lord was playing the part of a human being, he simply offered his respects within his mind and fixing the transcendental form of the Lord within his heart. He felt the assembly house by the airways. Usually, the sage Narada does not walk on the surface of the globe but travels in outer space. After the departure of Narad, Lord Krishna addressed the messenger who had come from the imprisoned kings and told him that they should not be worried, for he would very soon arrange to kill the king of Magadha, Jarasandh. Thus he wished good fortune to all imprisoned kings and the messenger. After receiving this assurance from Lord Krishna, the messenger returns to the imprisoned kings and informs them of the happy news of the Lord's forthcoming visit. All the kings were joyful at the news and began to wait very anxiously for the Lord's arrival. Hare Krishna.
The charioteer of Lord Krishna started for Hastinapur, accompanied by many other chariots, along with elephants, cavalry, infantry, and similar royal paraphernalia. Bugles, drums, trumpets, concerts, and horns all produced a loud, auspicious sound which vibrated in all directions. The 16,000 queens, headed by the goddess of fertility Rukmini Devi, the idol wife of Lord Krishna, and accompanied by their respective sons, all followed behind Lord Krishna. They were dressed in costly garments decorated with ornaments, and their bodies were smeared with sandalwood pop and garlanded with fragrant flowers. Riding on palanquins nicely decorated with silks, flags, and golden legs, they followed their exalted husband Lord Krishna. The infantry soldiers carried shields, swords, and lances in their hands and acted as royal bodyguards to the queens. In the rear of procession were the wives and children of all the other followers. And there were many suicide girls also following. Many beasts of burden like bulls, buffalo, mules, and asses carried the camps, wedding, and carpets. And the women who followed were seated in separate palanquins on the backs of, accompanied by the shouts of the people, and was full with the display of different colored flags, umbrellas, and whisks, and different varieties of weapons, dress, ornaments, helmets, and armaments shining in the sunlight. The procession appeared just like an ocean with high waves and sharks.
In this way, the procession of Lord Krishna's party advanced towards Hastinapura, New Delhi, and gradually passed through the kingdoms of Anartha, Gujarat province, Savira, Surat, the great desert of Rajasthan, and then Kurukshetra. Between those kingdoms were many mountains, rivers, towns, villages, pasturing grounds, and the mining fields. The procession passed through all these places in its advance. On his way to Hastinapura, the Lord crossed two big rivers, the Trisadvadi and the Saraswati. Then he crossed the provinces of Panchala and Matsya. In this way, he ultimately arrived at Hastinapura or Indraprastha. The audience of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is not at all commonplace. Therefore, when King Yudhishthira had heard that Lord Krishna had arrived in his capital city, Hastinapura, he became so joyful that all his bodily hair stood on end in great ecstasy, and he immediately came out of the city to properly receive the Lord. He ordered the musical vibration of different instruments and songs, and the learned Brahmanas of the city began to chant the hymns of the Vedas very loudly. Lord Krishna is known as Rishikesha, the master of the senses, and King Yudhishthira went forward to receive him exactly as the senses meet the consciousness of life. King Yudhishthira was the elder cousin of Krishna. Naturally, he had great affection for the Lord, and as soon as he saw him, his heart became filled with great love and affection. He had not seen the Lord for many days, and therefore he thought himself most fortunate to see the Lord present before him. The king therefore embraced the Lord Krishna again and again in great affection.
The eternal form of Lord Krishna is the everlasting residence of the goddess of fortune. As soon as King Yudhishthir embraced him, he became free from all the contamination of material existence. He immediately felt transcendental bliss and merged in an ocean of happiness. There were tears in his eyes, and his body shook in ecstasy. He completely forgot that he was living in this material world. After this, Bhimsen, the second brother of the Pandavas, smiled and embraced Lord Krishna, thinking of him as his own maternal cousin, and thus he also merged in great ecstasy. Bhimsen was so filled with ecstasy that for the time being he forgot his material existence. Then Lord Krishna himself embraced the other three Pandavas, Arjun, Nakul, and Sahadev. The eyes of all three brothers were inundated with tears, and Arjun embraced Krishna again and again because they were intimate friends. The two younger Pandava brothers, after being embraced by Lord Krishna, fell down at his lotus feet to offer their respects. Lord Krishna therefore offered his obeisances to the Brahmanas present, as well as to the elder members of the Kuru dynasty, like Bhishma, Drona, and Dhritarashtra. There were many kings of different provinces, such as Kuru, Srinjai, Kekeya, and Lord Krishna duly reciprocated greetings and respects with them. The professional reciters like the Sutas, Magadas, and the Vandis, accompanied by the Brahmanas, offered their respectful prayers to the Lord. Performing artists like the Gandharvas as well as the royal jokers began to play their Panava drums, conch shells, kettle drums, veenas, mridangas, and bugles, and they exhibited their dancing art to please the Lord. Thus the all-famous Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, entered the great city of Hastinapur, which was opulent in every respect. While Lord Krishna was entering the city, all the people talked amongst themselves about the glories of the Lord, praising his transcendental name, qualities, form, and so on.
The roads, streets, and lanes of Hastinapura were all sprinkled with fragrant water through the trunks of intoxicated elephants. In different places of the city, there were colorful festoons and flags decorating the houses and streets. At important crossroads, there were gates with golden decorations, and at the two sides of the great gate, there were golden water jugs. These beautiful decorations glorified the opulence of the city. Participating in this great ceremony, all the citizens gathered here and there, dressed in colorful new clothing and decorated with ornaments, flower garlands, and fragrant scents. The houses were all illuminated by hundreds and thousands of lamps, placed in different corners of the cornices, walls, columns, bases, and architraves, and from far away the rays of the lamps appeared to be celebrating the festival of Deepavali, a particular festival observed on New Year's Day of the Hindu calendar. Within the walls of the houses, fragrant incense was burning, and smoke rose through the windows, making the entire atmosphere very pleasing. On the top of every house, flags were flapping, and the golden water pots kept on the roofs shone brilliantly.
Lord Krishna thus entered the city of the Pandavas, enjoyed the beautiful atmosphere, and slowly proceeded ahead. When the young girls in every house heard that Lord Krishna, the only subject worth seeing, was passing on the road, they became very anxious to see this all-famous personality. Their hair loosened and their tightened saris became slack due to their hastily rushing to see him. They gave up their household engagements, and those who were lying in bed with their husbands immediately left them and came directly down onto the street to see Lord Krishna. The procession of elephants, horses, chariots, and infantry were very crowded. Some, being unable to see properly in the crowd, got up on the roofs of the houses. They were pleased to see Lord Sri Krishna passing with his thousands of queens. They began to shower flowers on the procession, and they embraced Lord Sri Krishna within their minds and gave him a hearty reception. When they saw him in the midst of his many queens, like the full moon situated amidst many luminaries, they began to talk amongst themselves.
One girl said to another, "My dear friend, it is very difficult to guess what kind of pious activities these queens might have performed, for they are always enjoying the smiling face and loving glances of Krishna." While Lord Krishna was thus passing on the road at intervals, some of the citizens, who were all rich, respectable, and freed from sinful activities, presented auspicious articles to the Lord, just to offer him a reception to the city. Thus they worshipped him as humble servitors.
When Lord Krishna entered the palace, all the ladies there were overwhelmed with affection just upon seeing him. They immediately received Lord Krishna with glittering eyes, expressing their love and affection for him. And Lord Krishna smiled and accepted their feelings and gestures of reception. When Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, saw her nephew, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, she was overpowered by love and affection. She at once got up from her bedstead and appeared before him with her daughters-in-law, Draupadi. And in maternal love and affections, she embraced him. As Maharaj Yudhisthira brought Krishna within the palace, the king became so confused in his jubilation that he practically forgot what he was to do at the time to receive Krishna and worship him properly. Lord Krishna delightfully offered his respects and obeisances to Kunti and other elderly ladies of the palace. His younger sister, Shubhadra, was also standing there with Draupadi, and both offered their respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord. At the indication of her mother-in-law, Draupadi brought clothing, ornaments, and garlands, and with this paraphernalia they received the queens of Rukmini, Satyabhama, Bhadra, Jambavati, Kalindi, Mitrabinda, Lakshmana, and the devoted Satya. These principal queens of Lord Krishna were first received, and then the other queens were also offered a proper reception. King Yudhisthira arranged for Krishna's rest and saw to it that all who came along with him, namely his queens, soldiers, ministers, and secretaries were comfortably situated. He had arranged that they would experience a new feature of reception every day while staying as guests of the Pandavas.
It was during this time that Lord Shri Krishna, with the help of Arjun, allowed the fire god Agni to devour the Khandava forest for his satisfaction. During the forest fire, Krishna saved the demon Mayasur, who was hiding in the forest. Upon being saved, Mayasur felt obliged to the Pandavas and Lord Krishna, and he constructed a wonderful assembly house within the city of Hastinapur to please King Yudhishthir. Lord Krishna remained in the city of Hastinapur for several months. During his stay, he enjoyed strolling here and there. He used to drive on chariots with Arjun, and many warriors and soldiers used to follow them. Thus ends the Bhakti-Vedanta purport of 71st chapter of Krishna.
That was it? That was the end, right?
Yeah, that was the end. Yeah. Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So today now ends our weekly Sunday reading of Krishna book to Srila Prabhupada. So now let's offer our respectful obeisance to him and to all the others. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Dharini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. And now we have with us here His Grace Abhirama Prabhu, a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada, who is now going to just recount some of the memories he had with Srila Prabhupada. So let us just hear him.
Hare Krishna, thank you. I would like to read a verse from Srimad Bhagavatam to begin with, from the first canto. I'll just go to the English. We think that we have met your goodness by the will of providence, just so that we may accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross the difficult ocean of Kali, which deteriorates all the good qualities of a human being. I'll read it again. We think that we have met your goodness by the will of providence, just so that we may accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross the difficult ocean of Kali, which deteriorates all the good qualities of a human being. So I think this verse is very relevant to us. And of course, this is the sages, and they are speaking to Guru. And similarly, we in our hearts should also see Guru in this light, that by the will of providence, of course it is said that the sincere person praying to access the Lord, to come closer to the Lord gives him Guru. And then in turn, Guru delivers the Lord clearly. Because in the beginning, when we're praying for liberation or finding some relationship with the Lord, we don't exactly know how to behave, how to prepare ourselves, how to be pleasing to the Lord. So, the Lord's expert devotee, by the will of providence. Providence means God, refers to God, the meaning of providence. Basically, it refers to the will of God. So Srila Prabhupada is the Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which he so kindly founded with great difficulty, great courage, determination, compassion, and endless amounts of sacrifice, he established the International Society of Devotees, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, to serve that purpose, to be the captain of our ship, to help us to find our way in this time of Kali when men's character is constantly being reduced. Now, all of us are to different degrees aware of the general news in the world. And we're observing as we move around in the world that the human beings are deteriorating. Many times I say, if I could be half the man my grandfather was, many of us can also say this, I would be much more benefited, much higher. If I could be half the man my grandfather was. What happened in such a short time? The physical body has deteriorated. The mental bodies are deteriorating. Literally. The quality of food is deteriorating. The quality of society is almost non-existent. Almost non-existent. Culture, what to speak of Vedic culture, is hardly a rumor. Even in India. It's an old granny's tale. I know when I travel in India, especially amongst the city people. Recently I flew from Bangalore to Delhi. And so the plane was full of young boys and girls who were obviously IT workers. They were so uncivil. Now, I'm sitting with one devotee who's traveling with me. We're in Dhoti, Tilak. Behind me is an old Hindu man with his wife. He's also Dhotiwala with some Shri Tilak. So the plane stops, the doors open, and we could not get up because these young people just stormed over the top of us. And I commented to my traveling companion that in New York City, in the subway, with the most poor people, I would not be treated so badly. And this is India. When I was living here and my children were in school, grade school, they spent some years here. My daughter graduated high school in Delhi at a prestigious school. And we started my son in that school, but his mother, my wife, after 1 year, she took him out. She said, they're so degraded here. I'm taking him back to America. I never saw such degraded people, all Indian boys and girls. Really? She went back to America for a more pious association. Imagine. So this is deterioration. I noted in the readings that King Yudhisthira and the various queens of his family, Draupadi, Kunti, they arranged for the proper greeting of all of those devotees who were traveling with the Lord, his queens, secretaries, even his soldiers. Right? This is a simple action of culture. When I was temple president in Calcutta, this would have been 1976, this particular incident, early 76. Srila Prabhupada was staying there quite a bit in these days, traveling between Mayapur and Calcutta and then other places, and back to Calcutta, back to Mayapur. He was in and out of Calcutta quite often. And one evening, we were waiting for some devotees to come from Mayapur. I believe it may have been Jayapataka Maharaj coming, and some other devotees, to see Prabhupada from Mayapur. It was a normal thing, no? He was going there, they were coming to see him, just a normal thing. But it was getting a little late in the evening. And I was aware that Prabhupada, he has a very busy schedule. He's very heavily pressured, his health and his, hardly sleeping anyway. So I went into his room and I said, Srila Prabhupada, it seems they're becoming late. We should, I'll stay up and wait for them, and you please take rest. There's no point to stay up. I'll stay up. And I was, 23, 24 years old, so I thought I could do. He can sleep much less than me, but anyway. So I invited him to sleep, and so then he checked. He was accepting, but he checked with me. He said, do you have full prasad for them? Now, those of you who are Indian know what is full prasad. That doesn't mean a big plate of khichdi. No. What does it mean? Roti, sabji, at least one sabji, if not two. Chutney, rice, dal, sweet. Especially in Calcutta, you have to have sweets, no? It means 6, 7 items. It's not a joke. It means something, full prasad. And I knew that, and I was stunned. Because in that time in Calcutta, we had no refrigeration. There was no such thing. So every day we bought our sabjis from the man outside, in the cart. He came regularly. He knew we were his good customer, so he came early so we could buy up what we needed. Same milkman would come and bring early, right? So we could start all the bhog for the offerings. And moreover, we were cooking on some chulas on the floor, little coal fires, which required quite a lot of work to keep them going properly, and they're quite messy, and so we also had an assistant in the kitchen who would make doughs and cut vegetables and clean pots and keep the chulas going, and because it was a big work. On top of that, somebody has to do all the cooking, right? Now he was gone. There was no vegetables in the house, in the temple. The chula was expired. The fire was gone. The assistant was gone. No milk, no sabjis. Oh my God. Prabhupada wants full prasad. Must have been 9, 10 o'clock at night. So I said to Prabhupada with a little funny face, I said, full prasad, Prabhupada? So I was temple president. I knew the situation. I thought impossible, right? He said, full prasad. He said, if you cannot give full prasad 24 hours a day to any guest, you cannot call it a temple. That's what he said. So I was remembering from this story how the queens and family members of Yudhisthira, how they took the care. This is culture. This is culture. As you know, right in this room, sitting right in that chair, that seat, that gadi, asana, I was just sitting on the side. I think I was massaging Prabhupada's lower arm. And he was, just because in that time when he was ill, we did massage all day long, not just his special massage time with the gamcha and the oil. Even in the normal time, we would, because to keep the circulation going. So I would be many times sitting. And just standing here behind me, Brahmananda and Tamal Krishna Goswami, they were just around here talking to Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada was talking about his death, his coming death. And he many times said, that death is coming. He wasn't concerned. And in this time he said, na sojati, na kanchati. I have no hankering. I have no lamentation. Then he stopped. He said, no, actually, I have one lamentation. Well, Brahmananda, that was a very shocking statement. Imagine. I have a lamentation. He's supposed to be nasojati, nakanchati. How he can have a lamentation? So Brahmananda said, Srila Prabhupada, because you didn't finish translating Srimad Bhagavatam? He said, no. Because I have not established Varnashram. So Each one of these stories, of course, I can go on, but I'm trying to make some specific points. Because I think that's the most important thing to draw out of these stories. Just like when we read a verse, then there's a purport. What are we to learn from this verse? So, Prabhupada talked Vedic culture and Vedic and Varna ashram, they were basically one and the same. You're just looking at different sides of the same issue. Vedic culture, Vedic society, which is Varna ashram. They're together. You can't separate them and say, I have some culture and then I have some Varnashram. You cannot have Varnashram. In fact, you cannot have proper Vaishnava life if your plant, your bhakti lata is not planted in the soil of Vedic culture, of Vaishnav Sadachar, how to treat other devotees. If you're not planted in that soil, then you're just a barbarian, and you will not be acceptable by the Lord. Because what is that? What is that culture? That's the culture of love, of respect, of feeling oneself the servant of everyone. That's simple gesture that one can make if we're all poor men. But King Yudhisthira, he had so much wealth, so he did the same thing, but with his full wealth. And then earlier we had read that Lord Krishna would give, he had groups of cows of 13,064, I think. And each group was so decorated with silks and jewels and gold on their horns. And he would give those groups, a whole group, to a Brahmin. So this is, Vedic culture is a culture of giving, of incessant love. And how did they have so much wealth? Because they were giving. Because they were worshiping properly, they were performing yajna, they were giving, they were not holding like misers. As soon as you hold, the flowing of blessings and energy stops. It's flowing through us. Just like the banker in the bank, behind the window, you go and you say, I need some of that flowing mercy. I need some money to flow through. And if she's a proper servant and you have the proper papers, she has to give it. If she holds it, no, I'm going to keep this money. What happens? She'll be thrown out of the bank. She'll lose her position. Because it's not her money. It's your money. You know? So similarly, this kindness to all other living entities, that's the Lord's nature. And if we are to be the Lord's servants, we must let that money flow through us. I'm giving an analogy, right? We must give that love, that kindness, that respect. How Lord Krishna treated the Brahmins, how he stood up when Narada Muni came, when Sudama Brahman came, washed their feet. This is the nature of the Lord. He's full of this love and compassion. And the devotee, in the mood of serving the Lord, just like the bank teller, he brings that love of the Lord through him also, represents it, and thus glorifies the Lord to all the living entities. Srila Jiva Goswami has said that the most mysterious tattvas, there are many tattvas in Vishnu tattva, Jiva tattva, different things to understand. The most mysterious tattva is Shiva tattva and Guru tattva, according to Jiva Goswami. So, I can only speak in simple terms, but Prabhupada had many times said that actual Guru is Krishna. Many times he says, Krishna is actual Guru. What does it mean? Then who is Prabhupada? Who is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati? Who is Bhakti Vinod Thakur? Huh? Of course, representative, but how is that working? So one way you can think of it. Guru, the Lord expands his Sankarshan, and he becomes Guru. And what is that relationship we have with that Guru personality? It's a relationship where we're calling to the Lord and he's reaching out to us. In that action, he is Sankarshan. But the Lord never goes anywhere alone. He's never alone. There's a whole party. There's a whole happy, joyful celebration, a party everywhere the Lord goes, full of so many devotees. And he himself is constantly being amazed in that party because he thinks he's achieved such high perfection, but his devotees keep amazing him that they keep sweetening and sweetening the rasas, the relationships. So even as he comes as guru, he comes with his devotees. And those devotees in the mood of serving him, they act the part of guru, and they actually become guru. And the Lord enjoys watching them become guru, and enjoys that they add their own sweetness, and is amazed, just like he is in the pastimes that we read in Goloka Vrindavan. He's amazed by the gopis. He's amazed by Sri Radha. It surprises him. Which is, of course, we hear this little anecdote, how he became Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he was challenged that he couldn't understand Sri Radha's love. So he does become amazed by the love of his devotees. It's so intense. And where do they bring this extra sweetness? If he created everything, how can he be surprised? But he is surprised. Because their love just keeps expanding the whole beauty of the spiritual world. So when the Lord comes to reach out to you, reach to your heart, he gives that duty to his devotees because he knows they'll do even more sweet job of it. They'll be even more affectionate, even though he's unlimitedly affectionate. He cannot imagine how anyone could be, but then he sees again and again his devotees are even more affectionate because they want to serve him. So the enthusiasm is dynamic. You know, what is a nuclear, there's a, You can say fission or, yeah, where it reaches a point, what's called critical mass, where the intensity becomes so much that you can't stop it anymore. It just, the reaction keeps going and going. So there's a little bit of an analogy for the spiritual world. The intensity is such a critical mass that it will never stop. It will always keep expanding. So in this way, in that dimension, in that universe, it's unlimitedly large and still unlimitedly getting larger. And the devotees are part of that mood that come as guru. So, Srila Prabhupada was always with one foot in Krishna Loka. He never left that place. He actually never left that place. And he told different devotees at different times, and he told me in Calcutta, he had just gone in the bathroom. It was summer, so he just had his lungi, no shirt. So he had naturally taken his janeo and he'd wrapped around his ear, which is the proper thing, right? And he had gone in the loo and come out. And he was just thinking out loud, unwrapping his janeo, and he said, a little bit surprised himself. He said, in my entire life, there was never a time I was not thinking of Krishna. He was saying it as if he was a little surprised, right? Because it's so rare in this world, and he was reflecting. So it means that he is the eternal associate of Krishna. And this is the actual qualification to take us home back to Godhead. There is no other institutional stamp or any trick or any other way to go. One must get the blessings of a resident of Vrindavan in order to enter Vrindavan. You know? That's you'll find in Rupa Goswami's writing in Nectar Devotion. You must have the guidance and the special care of a resident of Vrindavan. So Prabhupada is our resident of Vrindavan. He's our entry card to get into Vrindavan. And he made a special agreement with the Lord that you please take these fallen souls. If they just follow the very minimum of just 2.5, 3 hours of japa. Just 4 simple regular principles that any civilized man could do. At least in my grandfather's time, even in America, except for meeting, any man could do it, you know. But to speak of India, your grandfathers were probably very great men. That so fast it's lost. So fast it's lost. When I was first staying in India in the early 70s, of course, I was here in emergency. I was here before emergency. I've been in India for a long time. The men that were in positions of authority in government or different places or businesses, many of them had been born in Prabhupada's time, in the late 1800s, 1890s, 1896, 1897, 98, 1900. They were from the old world. Like Prabhupada came from that old world where his own father and mother were saints, right? But it was common in that Vaishnava community, you know. And I remember one man my age, we were early 20s, Indian, he was telling me about his grandfather there. And he said, my grandfather was a judge, and every day he woke up, he did his argya and his different worship, and prepared himself to go to the court. And he had one plate of rice, and he described this high. And on top he took 1 full cup of ghee and 2 big cups of jaggery, poured it on the rice and a full cup of ghee, and this was his breakfast. And then he walked 8 kilometers to the court. Huh? By walk. And then he finished the court and he walked back 8 kilometers, had some roti, some sabji, to bed, and did it again. Now who can do today? Our bodies have even deteriorated. Our minds have deteriorated in such a short time. So we desperately need the mercy of the great Acharya who has come to save us all. We're all in this family. I mentioned the other day in the class, we're all in this family. You know, if your name is Birla, doesn't matter if you're this generation, that generation, you're a Birla. Right? Nothing more to say. No? Doesn't matter what generation you are. You're still a Birla. Or a Rockefeller, or whatever is the name. Huh? You have the family stamp, right? So, sitting also in this room, Brahmananda asked Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada, will we be with you in the spiritual world? I keep repeating this story. I want to keep repeating this story, because I think it's important for you to know it. And Srila Prabhupada paused for a moment, and he said, when we go back to Krishna Loka, the residents of Vaikuntha will fly over Krishna Loka in their flower airplanes. And they will look down, and they will say, oh, look at the nice guru and his disciples. Now this is Prabhupada, he's not joking around. He's telling you the truth. That this is an eternal relationship. And you're in that family. And so you may have Siksha Guru, Diksha Gurus, you may think, okay, I have a little distance. You have no distance. If they're in the line of Prabhupada, they're in that family. What does it matter? Grandfather, great-grandfather, grandson, great-grandson. What does it matter? You're still a Rockefeller or you're still a Birla or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. You know? Prabhupada's family spirit is like that. Take us all within his arms. and be the captain of our ship. Who is the captain of our ship? Who has written our books? Who has given the navigation maps, shown us which way to go, how fast to go, how to turn the wheel, how to set the sails, everything he gave us. So he's truly the captain of the ship, to cross over this dangerous ocean of Kali, where everyone is so broken. I can say degraded, but also broken, just broken. We don't have energy, we don't have spirit, we don't have determination. We can't even think truthfully. What to speak of, speak truthfully. That's even very hard. If somebody criticizes us, we immediately make excuses. We don't even realize we're doing it. We automatically try to avoid facing the fact. Or we'll say, oh, that's your opinion. Even to an elder. An elder doesn't have an opinion in cultured society. He has the fact. Right or wrong, he has the fact. That's Vedic culture. And one simple gesture, you can see what is Vedic culture, is when the junior is reaching down to touch the feet of the elder. That action itself is an indication of culture. The lack of it means you're uncultured. You're like pasu, animal. And you will not please the Lord. You cannot. Lord Chaitanya explains how to please the Lord. That mood, that attitude. We must cultivate it. And I emphasize this because very frankly, it's in very short supply in our ISKCON society. I noticed it very much. What happened is too much American money chasing came into our society. And now many devotees, many Indian devotees, they want to get up the ladder. Oh, I'm a temple president, now I am a regional secretary, and I get a nice watch, or I get some files, and I can walk and you've totally lost the whole point. Go back home to your mother, you're better off. You've lost the whole idea, and you're spreading the wrong idea. One should be serious about devotional service, follow the actual example of Srila Prabhupada, not make up something new. It will not work. He is the captain of the ship to cross over the dangerous ocean of Kali. And culture is very important to that. And why he was saying, I'm lamenting because I've not established Varnashram, because he knew that without establishing proper culture, the whole business would be undone. It will be broken. Because what do we do? We perpetuate Kanista Adhikari mood, which is saying, well, okay, he's my guru and he's not my guru. I don't give a damn about him. I only care about him. This is Kanista Adhikari. Every devotee is our guru. Every pious soul is our guru. Lord Krishna called all of his cows his gurus. Once Mother Jasoda came to bring him shoes because he was out in the fields with bare feet, must be stepping on stones and thorns. He refused. He said, no. When my 9 lakh gurus are not wearing shoe, how can I wear shoe? Prabhu.
This is a very important point, and it's happening in this country. The gurus giving their disciples powerful positions and giving their advice, powerful positions, and they're like enjoying the money. Everything is good. It's so shocking to
Yeah, I of course, I'm 53 years in the movement, and I've watched this transition, and therefore I speak about it. I'm not paid by the institution, I don't take their salt. I'm only paid by Srila Prabhupada to speak what I know. And although there's been many wonderful heroic actions being done by the devotees of ISKCON, the leadership of ISKCON. This is one point I'm deeply concerned about, is this Kanista Adhikari, perpetuating Kanista Adhikari. Because we went from a very clear family spirit. Everyone was part of the family in ISKCON. And now there's so many different families. And this is not Vaishnava way of behaving. It is not. It is not. It is the way Kanista Adhikari thinks. And Prabhupada never taught Kanista Adhikari. Kanista Adhikari is a failure. Prabhupada immediately preached at the Madhyam platform, immediately to the Madhyam platform. He didn't waste any time to tell you to be a Kanista Adhikari. There's already so many that come every day from Delhi here, huh? Do we need more of them? We need real devotees who immediately accept the standard of Madhyam Adhikari. Prabhupada's books, it's an insult to Prabhupada's books to turn yourself into a Kanista by reading his books. How can you even do that? It's impossible. But somehow we do it. Because his books are very clearly Madhyam Adhikari, which is a very advanced level, accepting fully that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality, having full faith in the Shastras, being able to tell the difference between devotees and non-devotees. Not by the color of their cloth, or the group that they work with, or their high position in the institutional structure. That's not how you tell what is a devotee and a non-devotee. You have to develop this subtle understanding, awareness of what are the manifestations of a devotee. And immediately, if they're surrendering to Krishna, if they're taking the surrender to wear Vaishnav Tilak and Kunti Mala and chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and give up the four sinful activities, immediately they're becoming quite elevated. And then, as they become a little bit matured and they display symptoms of enthusiasm for chanting, enthusiasm for preaching, then we can see that they're rising up from Busari.
You see all these things going on, but you know you can't do anything about it because you will bring Prabhupada's movement into discipline. So, in a way, you have to keep it. But then, so is it that whatever Prabhupada will always have to be true, and that's it. And then if you think you were there, we wouldn't be like this kind of discussion and then everyone will go for it.
Well, the solution, of course, in this world, that's a tricky word because solutions are not abundant in the material world, right? But still, there are solutions. The solution, of course, is for us to cultivate our own humility and Vaishnav Sadachar, spirit of genuine love and affection for all Vaishnavas, what to speak of all living entities, but especially for that's the Madhyam platform, huh? And when we become Uttama, if I ever may never become, but then everyone becomes equally the same to us. But at Madhyam, at least, we should be able to see the difference. But all of the devotees that are coming towards Krishna, that are trying to come, and all the pious people, we should extend our love and care and be an example. I would say, like Bhakti Swami was a very good example of Vaishnav Sadachar. As it's easy for me to mention him, everyone knows him and remembers how he behaved, right? Anyone could walk up and he would immediately treat you with love and affection. He didn't take a measurement, a scale out and say, okay, is this guy a GBC or does he have a powerful position or... No, this is the proper behavior. And in fact, Bhakti Swami used to give lectures on Vaishnav Sadachar, didn't he? He gave class. So it was a very nice example. And I think that this is something each one of us should cultivate. And the thing about Vaishnav Sadachar is that it's extremely attractive to the sincere, aspiring devotee. It's very attractive. So it will ignite a fire. So if we keep trying to behave towards all devotees with this love, affection, and humility, it will light a fire and inspire others. But there is no full solution. The world must be troublesome. Even within ISKCON, it has to be. It's designed like that. But within our own world, within our own Sangha, those people who we touch, we can express that proper mood, and at least it will save us to some degree, to treat those devotees with great love and care. In fact, by assisting other devotees, at least for me, I feel it's my only hope. For me to advance in spiritual life, there's not a hope in hell. There's no chance of it whatsoever. But by serving Prabhupada's children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, maybe Prabhupada will bless me. So I try to keep that in mind. I'm certainly a failure every day, but you asked the question, so it's my suggestion. To have this mood of serving the devotees, by helping to enthuse them, by being kind to them, by showing to them that they matter, that they are valuable in your eyes, because they are valuable in Krishna's eyes. Who are we to devalue them when Krishna has so much value on them? That he's bringing them to his shelter. So just cultivate the spirit, and within your own circles it will be contagious, and it will be helping you for sure, and I'm sure you're already doing. But that's the only way. We cannot expect that this has become a very big institution. And I know when I was here in those last months that Prabhupada was quite worried about the growth of the speed that it was growing, and the inability of the society to manage that growth. And sitting right there, he said, I was sitting here, and he said, no more growth. So, of course, he didn't persist. He didn't keep saying that, make a rule, make a law. But it was one of the ideas that came in his mind because he was worrying. And that's the same time he was talking about, I wish I had established Varnashram. Vedic culture is so important. Because he finally understood that I'm going to die very soon. So he started thinking of what he didn't finish to help you and to help all of us, right? He was worried about it. That was the only lamentation he had, is that what he wanted to do for us, he wouldn't have more time to do it. Well, we already have those natural divisions. They occur. In that time, I asked Srila Prabhupada, how will you do it? Because he said, I want to establish Varnashram. I said, how will you do it, Srila Prabhupada? And he said, I will go to Gita Nagari, which was the best farmland we had in ISKCON at the time. It's extremely good soil there. It's amazing soil. It's protected by the government, by the U.S. government. There are some soils, farm soils in America. They may be similar in India, I don't know. But certain soils are so good for farming that they're absolutely banned for building and development, and you must keep it for farming, right? That soil at Gita Nagari is one of those listed soils, right, for protection. So Prabhupada said, I will go to Gita Nagari, I will sit down, and I will teach you how to live off the land. So I understood that starting by living off the land will be the seed that will foster the Varnashrama tree. Everything will come out, and it's so much in his books, so much there, but it has to start where we actually are living with Mother Nature and Mother Cow, off the land and off the cow. And there are some good examples that are starting to come up here and there, some you all know. and also many disappointments that we didn't do it for so long. I'm also trying, I'm also involved. I put a lot of whatever money I had in my business years into some farmlands and some development. But that is how the future will be sustained. Because by living in the city, you get a hard heart. By associating with Mother Cow and the earth and the natural cycle of weather and the mercy of the Lord to feed us, and a community that's bonded together by growing food off the land, your heart will be allowed to become softer, kinder, and then you'll be able to cultivate Krishna consciousness with a soft heart. You cannot do it with the Ugra Karma heart. In fact, the worst thing you can do is get an MBA. It's the absolute worst thing you can do, because they teach you to look at everything from numbers, even people, even relationships. And they are the ones destroying the world. They're all MBAs. They're out there destroying all the companies, they're destroying the world. It's all run by MBAs. So really the heart has to turn back to the natural cycle and see the Lord's hand in nature. See the actions of the Lord in our life every moment. So I think I've kept us long, no? Okay, yes. Well, in Prabhupada's time, you're saying there were many farm communities? Actually, no. There were not. So Hyderabad farm, he had a lot of hope for. It had kind of begun, a little bit begun. That was a hopeful thing, but then the devotees made a mess of it, and we lost it. Then there was New Vrindavan, which was not really farmland. It was mountainous. But they had some cows, they had some gardening, a little bit of farming, not much. Gita Nagari was seriously a good farm. There must have been one or two others, but I don't remember them. But the whole society was still not very much thinking in that way. But sometime soon we'll require that. You see there, Prabhupada predicted, in 1972, that all of this will be destroyed in 50 years. So what is 50 years from 1972? It's now. It's right now. And I don't know. It can be off a few years, but I've never seen Prabhupada make a mistake. I've never seen it. I've been watching for 53 years. I never saw him make a mistake on anything. Now, I think there are some more, quite a few more. I think Bhakti Prakash Swami has got 4, 5, 6, I don't know. He's doing a great job. In Hungary, Shivaram Swami has done it. You have some in Europe? And here and there in America, there's small, groups of householders that are making some genuine efforts. Slowly, people are trying. Big problem to establish, but very important to establish. I've been also trying to start Gurukula. Very difficult, but I just keep trying. I personally work in India. I've lived almost 30 years in India in different projects, but right now I'm preaching in Rajasthan in schools and establishing an everyday class of bhakti. But next time I go out, I think in about a week, I'm going to an established Gurukula who wants my big involvement and, really get involved with the design and structure of the whole thing. They already have 300-400 kids and a big school building and everything, and they live there and they have cows and land, and so I'm just trying to do a little bit what I can, but I'm not sponsored by ISKCON. I just, I take the train and people give me free rides, and but it's quite nice that way. Yeah. Well, I think this is an off balance. Temples in the city are very good, but not if Varnashram is being ignored because of temples in the city. Because actually the middle class are not really the solution. They're the problem. The solution is in the villages. The solution's with the simple people of India. They still have culture. And as I gave that example on the airplane, the cities, they've lost their culture. I mean, they've lost their culture. So I think there's a great opportunity in the villages, and we should be looking in that direction of trying to establish Varnashram. It's not easy, as I said. Gurukula is also not easy. Very difficult. And big troubles have come from Gurukulas that were not done properly. So I can say one thing. Society, the word society, international society. That's a key word in that title, international society. So what is it? It's international. And what's it for? For Krishna consciousness. But it's a society. Where is the society? I don't see much. I see an organization maybe for spreading Krishna consciousness. I accept that, of course. Society means women and families. If you don't have women and families doing what they do, doing the beautiful things that they do, then the men just go around starting wars and clubbing each other and starting a political party, and they don't make a society. When Prabhupada said society, it means the whole community of creating the next generation, children. And we don't have that, right? We're very sannyas heavy at the top. And that's not a society. Sannyasi is less than 1%. In all of Mahaprabhu's associates, only 3 sannyasis. But now the sannyasis even conduct who is marrying, counts, they have so many daughters. Sannyasi has no daughter. That's not a sannyasi. He cannot have a daughter. He cannot have a family. Right? That's not sannyasi. And what does it do? It destroys the householder ashram too. Because the woman doesn't want to listen to the husband. She doesn't want to serve, she wants to serve Guruji. Forget the husband. He's got the money. He's got the power. He's got the influence. Forget about that joker. I don't need him. He doesn't even have a job. He's out selling books. So the whole society suffers. So we have to organize ourselves along the Vedic cultural lines. Prabhupada wanted that. We don't need this American influence. We don't need it. It's going to destroy everything. So, learn it, speak it, be honest, try to develop it in your own life. But it's all resting on proper Vaishnav sadachar and treating everyone with great love and respect. And we need more of that in our society. Sometimes I find it's even a little rougher in the society than outside the society. And I find more kindness sometimes outside the society because we get caught in this American type ambition of who is the big man, who has the control, who has the portfolio, who has the seat on the GBCs or whatever, XYZ, ABC, whatever names they come up, right? And those are the janitors. They're the cleaning people. The real spirit is that they are devotees and everyone else is a devotee and we love them all. They have the job of doing management work. Huh? It's a kayasta position. It's not a high position. Preacher is a high position. One who gives enthusiasm to chant is a high position. Not the person who writes checks and organizes. That's okay. It's a nice job. But the society should get the priorities right. Right? And it should be protective. Women and children should feel so happy that they're so welcome and so honored and safe. And if you don't have that, you don't have a culture. You don't have a culture. And you can't call it international society because it's not a society. So we should strive for it. Prabhupada was lamenting that in the end. The lamentation of the Guru is our mission in life. If he wants something, especially if he's feeling lamentation about it, we should be trying to give him that. That's defining how we should go forward. So I'll end here before I get arrested or something. Huh? Thank you. Thank you. I can only speak what I think to be true. All the devotees in ISKCON are all glorious. All the leaders are glorious. And my love extends to all of them. But I think our priorities need to be constantly improved and re-examined. Okay, thank you very much. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.